I've been asked in the comments section a few times why I dislike Tommy Robinson, and I think the reality is that I just don't like him. I have very very little reason to actively dislike him, and I'm sure we would enjoy a cup of tea. I have friends who are good friends, I believe, of Tommy Robinson's, Stephen. But I find his comments against Islam, his statement that the Prophet was a paedophile, that his threat that the British Muslim community should face the full force of the EDL, that Muslim immigration uh, should be banned, that migrants entering Europe, and specifically Muslim migrants entering Europe, are harassing women, um, and they're culturally and ideologically not going to assimilate. I'd personally send, he said in 2016, every adult male Muslim that has come into the EU over the past 12 months back tomorrow if I could, fake refugees. Now, um, I think I think he is responsible for a wave of Islamophobia and misunderstanding of Islam, and I think those people who take an interest in Islam, and I think we should, have a duty to put forward as positive an understanding of faith as is right. This is a faith that has extraordinary compassion and extraordinary scope. And the Hope Not Hate research said that Robinson was one of the main drivers of anti Muslim sentiment in the UK. He masqueraded as a journalist, an author, and an expert on Islam, and he is none of these things. And that, I think, is the biggest problem. Now, I think the idea that he masqueraded as a journalist is just prejudicial language. As an author, well, the moment you publish something, you are an author. So I recognize him as a journalist and as an author. As for an expert on Islam, well, I'm sure he's read something. I'm sure he's read some bits and pieces. Has he learnt Arabic? I don't know. I look forward to asking him this. And I'd be very happy to ask my friends whether or not Tommy Robinson has at least spent time learning Arabic. I learned Arabic years ago. My Arabic is hopeless now. But I remember learning it so that I could read the Quran, and I found it a very moving experience, a very difficult experience because Arabic is not easy. And it's one of those languages that if you don't practice on a regular basis, it is really hard to pick up and to keep up. Uh, so I'm cautious about the propaganda which is put out about Tommy Robinson, that he is a right wing anti Islam activist. I think that's an exaggeration, that he is an Islamophobic extremist. This is what Hope Not Hate put out. And yet at the same time, there are people who say that they've been inspired by him. The wife of Darren Osborne, the man who carried out the Finsbury Park mosque attack in 2017, stated that Osborne was brainwashed and had been watching a lot of Tommy Robinson stuff on the internet. It's not to say that Tommy Robinson himself is responsible for that madness, but I think one has to be very careful of what words go out into the social media ether, because they linger in a way that we do not. And his call to like people like Pamela Geller and Robert Spencer, their call to stop the Islamicization of nations. I don't see that this is a problem, or rather, I don't see that it's a reality. Whatever missionary zeal might be found among certain groups, I simply don't see that that even that missionary zeal is likely to be A, efficacious, and B, a threat. As I say, Islam has the most wonderful base, and the base, of course, of a religion is its fundament, hence the word fundamental. But that's a word which was originally applied in a derogatory way to forms of evangelical Christianity in America. And Islam is far from a fundamental religion, insofar as so much of the interpretation of the Quran is filtered through the hadiths, though the Quran has the advantage of being passed down to us in an almost unchanged form because of this idea of the recitation, and that people have traditionally learnt it by heart, and I find that practice very exciting. But yeah, the other side of all this is I'm a great defender of free speech, and I'm a great defender of freedom, and I found the sight of Tommy Robinson being arrested on Sunday heinous. I find the idea of him being banned from Snapchat or from Instagram or Facebook absurd. Instead, I would encourage him to be more careful with the words he uses, and I think he is being more careful. I watched him closely when he was visiting the cenotaph, and I thought he was perfectly agreeable. And I looked at the video of him being arrested yesterday, and I thought again he was perfectly agreeable, and there was no reason for his arrest, and it was a dirty business by the police. If you bend the law to get rid of people you don't like, you are destroying the law, and I don't think that's something that we can ever do. If there are real reasons for frog marching someone like Tommy Robinson out of the public view, then we need to know what those real reasons are, and so does he. You can't concoct them and just simply decide that, well, this person isn't allowed out in public because he's going to cause offence. He may find the evidence, identify the evidence, and then produce a proper legal order signed by a judge, which is going to have proper legal effect. Instead, we're going to end up once again with an apology from the police for overstepping their authority, in much the same way as an apology was given to the Republican people at the time of the coronation for the way they were appallingly treated. Again, I don't sympathise with their views, but I was appalled by the aggression of the police on that occasion, as I was appalled by the aggression of the police on Sunday. So, Tommy Robinson, I'm looking forward to having chats with people who know him, and I'm looking forward to asking more about Tommy Robinson. And I know what a persuasive individual he is. His rhetoric is good. He is very convincing. But he does have this background of having said some slightly dodgy things and being identified as somebody who has inspired hate. And that worries me.